of, you know, gosh, what do you want, like 12.8, something high, which is fine. But it wants to be like 15. It wants to be an equivalence ratio of 1.00. The other issue I have is it's inconsistent, and the inconsistency is probably coming from the factory computer, view from the injectors around in there, but I'm also getting some inconsistency from the unit itself. So, you know, what I've done is going to make a positive improvement. You know, we've got air fuel, it's not horrible now. And I've done about a bajillion runs from very low RPM. Literally, I'm loading this thing up and in gear at 800 RPM and rolling into it, which is kind of how I would drive it if it was mine. And so what I've tried to do is kill this horribly rich stuff on the top and horribly lean stuff on the bottom.
Steer it out to the middle.
Yeah, and I'm getting, the factory ECU is clearly fighting me because I have this whole closed loop situation that there's something is not right. Either he's wrong about the parameters of what open loop and closed loop are supposed to do, and I fear he's wrong about it. Unfortunately, a lot of newer vehicles stay in closed loop at full throttle, full load. So
you don't think that has anything to do with my the EVAP?
I cleared that code.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I cleared that code because I was thinking the same thing, and what I didn't want is him asking later, you know. Well, so basically, I did everything that I could possibly do to not have an issue with that. Let me get these guys to start on strapping it low end, and basically I've done that with them. The fear, though, is that it's not going to stay consistent because we do have a whole radical feature out here of the computer, the factory ECU, that's pulling and adding fuel based on its own agenda. And it does have a learning procedure. It did not have a crazy learned value in there. You have these short-term fuel trims where the thing is just immediately looking at these O2 sensors and saying, more fuel, less fuel, more fuel, less fuel. Then in the background you get what they call long-term trim, and those are based on all kinds of other parameters. The scanner doesn't show crazy trims that have been,
really?
I say ratcheted up. Basically, those increment over time, very long amounts of time, and they stabilize to, you know, sometimes crazy values like minus 25% fuel, shit like that. That's not in there. So that is somewhat ruled out. So probably what I'll do is I'll chat with Ross some more, and I'll get if we can get like an email address or something. That's usually a better way to do technical stuff. Okay. Because on the phone you can hear things wrong. Like he didn't understand what I was asking about the map and all that sort of thing. But via email, it's all written down. And everybody's
all clear.
Yeah, it pretty much. I like that. Okay. And I'll see if I can help you further refine this situation because, you know, it's easy to pick things apart and say, well, that's a crappy system, or supplementary injectors, there's better ways of doing it. But it ain't that bad. I've done these things for years and they're fine. It just, there's some other factor that that's going on that he's not aware of. The number one thing was there's a huge amount of air mass before he was actually injecting fuel. That was number one problem, and I mentioned that to him, that for what his customers are doing with these things, he needs to go ahead and get those injectors squirting earlier. Like, he might not know that there's a big voltage deviation from one unit to another. You know, like if this thing, let's say that this is 0.2 of a volt off. It doesn't sound like much, but 0.2 of a volt means that thing doesn't come on until 4,000 RPM instead of 2,000 RPM. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's unfortunately that thing has a wide boost range, and it only has 5 volts to cover that. So if
20% thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Pulling this on.